welcome to my podcast, Soul Expansion and Inspiration. This is Series 2, Episode 5, and my name is Allie O'Shea. Today, I would like to give a very warm welcome to my special guest, Trudie Stroud. Trudie is a clairvoyant, a medium, a certified life coach, and she has also attained counseling qualifications and a past life regression qualification. Welcome to the show, Trudie.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm really, really good, thank you.
It's so lovely to have you here. I'm so pleased to have you here. You and I have been friends on Facebook for a little while now, but we only got to meet for the first time on Monday when I had a fantastic reading with you.
Yeah, we did. It was really good, thank you.
Yeah. So it was so lovely to meet you because I've been watching your energy on Facebook and I'm very drawn to you. So, you're doing an amazing job with your business. So I admire your work.
Oh, thank you. And you're definitely one of those people I look up to and admire your work as well.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. I think you're amazing at what you do, not only because you're so genuine and intuitive, but also because I obviously love the fact that you incorporate the law of attraction into your readings and into your coaching and things like that. You say that your spiritual journey began about 5 years ago when you left an abusive relationship with your children. And you kind of stumbled upon Sarah Prout, whose story must really have resonated with you because I think I told you I was a member of her Manifesting Academy and know her background, which is that she too left an abusive relationship with very small children and had to try and do what you did, which was to make yourself feel supported and abundant as a single mother looking after young children. So would you like to tell us a little bit about your background then and how a little bit more about that and how things progressed from there for you?
Yeah, definitely. So I was actually in a relationship with a man that had narcissistic personality disorder. And actually, so did his mother.
Right.
And things came to a head when I was actually 8 months pregnant with my daughter, who's now 5. I also had 2 other children. And at the time, I was very depressed. Didn't actually realize how depressed I was. I'd always had a love for angels and kind of manifesting and things like that, but I didn't have like a conscious awareness of it. So anyway, I decided that I couldn't continue to live the way I was living because I was beginning to become very disconnected from my children.
Right. Yeah.
So I decided, and it was actually Christmas Day.
Wow.
I decided to leave. And I told him that he had to move out. He refused to go. And I remember standing there threatening to basically call the police. Anyway, things came to a head. I left with 3 children at that point in time.
Where did you go?
The council, who they are, moved me to a home where I didn't know anybody. I had no friends, no family. I was really, really isolated. They wouldn't give out my address. And this is why I try and teach people about there are always blessings in pain. There are always lessons in pain, because before I'd always relied on other people to kind of teach me what to do.
Yeah.
So I'd never been by myself before. So I'd been put into this house where I was completely on my own with 3 children, no one to rely on. So I call it getting busy with your faith. I had to get busy with myself. So that was where the internet came in really, really useful.
Yes.
Because I'd been moved away from everybody that I knew. I had no one to call upon, no family, absolutely nothing. And I came across Sarah Prout's website, and I remember reading her story, and it was like, wow, if she can do it, then so can I. And often we're connected in pain.
Yes.
But if you can see someone's kind of light after pain,
Yeah.
that inspires you.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So she provided an inspiration inside of you that sort of went, she can do it. I can do this. I'm going to get through it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And it was like, it reminds me of the Hansel and Gretel story, like breadcrumbs. And from there, I think it was either the same day or the day after, I was looking at everybody's comments from her feed, like sign up to buy my manifesting ritual. So I did that, even though I had very little money. I was on benefits at the time. And one of these comments also included a link to Abraham Hicks, and said how valuable they'd found Abraham Hicks. So straight away I went onto that, and it was like all these little light bulbs going off.
Yeah. Series of events of synchronicities happening for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I'd always been one of those that I kind of knew what intuition was, but I'd never quite followed it up. And it was kind of like, I need to follow this up now.
Right.
Because I'd always ignored my bodily, because intuition is connected to the signs that our body gives off. So like the knot in the stomach, the butterflies, the things like that. And I was starting to get all of those feelings, like the butterflies in my stomach, the excited feelings, like, oh, what could this mean, and things like that. Whereas I remember distinctly when I was in my negative relationship, shall we say, that gave me lots and lots of lessons, I ignored all of that. I ignored the knots in my stomach. I ignored the tight feeling in my chest.
Yeah.
It was telling me this isn't serving me.
Yeah. And that's actually one of the questions I was going to ask you is, you know, where, like you practice sort of mediumship and intuition and intuitive life coaching and all of those types of things now, and you say that you kind of quashed down your intuition while you were in your relationship, but in your younger years, did you ever see spirit or see angels or have any of those kind of happenings to you earlier on? Or was this something that just developed as a result of you going through this spiritual journey after your relationship had ended?
It was only on reflection, when my relationship ended, that I realized that as a child it had been going on all along.
Right.
So for example, I've got a rare form of epilepsy where my mouth will shake and I'll go off into slight kind of like trance states.
Okay.
So when I was about 6 years old, I would go off into, they don't happen for as long now because it's controlled by medication, but when I was 6, I would go off into really, really long daydreams, to the point where they would happen for hours and hours and hours. And if I was doing schoolwork, I would be what you would now call automatic writing.
Right. Okay.
I wouldn't lose consciousness, but I would be writing. And I remember this so vividly, but there was one time when I would be having this seizure and automatically writing, because I would be daydreaming, zoning out. And the teacher slammed his ruler on the table, because to him I looked like I was kind of not concentrating. And like probably falling asleep to him. And then he picked up my work and kind of looked really confused, then just put it back down on the table and basically ignored it. And then, having woken back up, I looked back on the paper and it just repeated the word beautiful. You are beautiful, beautiful, everything is beautiful.
Oh, wow.
And that's just stuck with me. because spirit, source, will give you the most beautiful guidance. It will tell you what you need to know, not necessarily what you want to know, but that was obviously what I needed to know back then, because through my childhood I would get bullied a lot for having seizures. And
yes,
also,
I was going to ask you, did you struggle with that a lot?
Yeah. My mum, bless her, who didn't know that I was epileptic, because it just looked, she called me a tired child. She would go, "Wake up, Trude, wake up," like that a lot. And she would call me a zombie child.
So when were you diagnosed with that?
When I was 15.
Wow.
So it took a long time. So that's kind of the blessing I take from that. It developed my connection. I just didn't realize it was a connection. And I also remember being in bed at night, and every single night I would hear footsteps going up my living room steps, like creaking, every single time. But it didn't scare me. I would just get annoyed by it.
And then this was when you were a child again? Yes.
When I was a child. And I remember saying in my head, "Shut up, go away. I want to go to sleep." But what that was doing spiritually and subconsciously, it was creating boundaries between me and the spirit world. It was saying, no, this is my space. Like, leave me alone.
I need to go to sleep now. Stop.
And that's probably why I've very rarely had any experience with any negative entities, any negative energy.
Oh wow, that's amazing. And your mom or anyone in your family, were they clairvoyant or anything like that?
My mum is. My sister is very, very. But my sister's chosen to close it down. She doesn't like to acknowledge it, because she's had more negative experiences with it. And that's also because of things that she has experienced in her life. She's had a lot of low mental health experiences that she struggled to control. I mean, they're under control now, but I feel like she put the two together. Like her spiritual connection was the thing that basically left her feeling out of control. So she shut that down.
Yes, so many people shut it down. I know my friend Vivian, when she's always seen spirit as well, and when she kind of pushed it away as well a lot. And you know, she used to actually see people dying in real time, and friends of hers, and she couldn't stop it, so she had to, you know, push it down a lot. So I think a lot of people, if they have any kind of negative experience, which none of us as humans want to have, you know, they can push it down quite a lot. But more often than not, it usually will surface back up again somewhere along the line of that person's human experience, I guess.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, for me, I know my connection to source and everything helps me to feel in control. It helps me to take my power back. And I know similar has been said for a lot of other people as well. It gives us a huge toolbox.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you are also a massive fan of Abraham Hicks, aren't you? And you would incorporate their teachings a little bit like I do. You know, I've seen you do your readings and you'll talk about Abraham, and I just love that. Have you got a favorite Abraham clip or a favorite Abraham saying maybe that you like?
I'm trying to think now, because there is so
many, isn't there?
There is so many. I think it was the one that I told you, what was it, on Monday, where it was like, if you see a child running and they fall over, you wouldn't shout and say, "Get up, you little dummy."
That's it.
That always sticks.
But you know why
in
that
my
is? I
head.
think because it's their sense, Esther's sense of humor coming into play with that, isn't it? And it's all
Yeah,
about laughter with her. So it shows her sense of humor.
yeah. And
Yeah,
I think that's so important because a lot of us tend to judge ourselves for not being where we should be.
yeah, that's true.
So
We beat
it,
ourselves up a bit.
yeah, or where we think someone else assumes that we should be in order to feel good enough.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. And that's where self-love comes into play
Oh,
too, isn't it? You know, self-love is
definitely.
such a huge thing. I know you and I both have courses, I think you do anyway, on
Yeah,
self-love.
yeah, I do.
It's so hugely important. I know you'll agree with um, we shouldn't be comparing ourselves to anyone else's, but to practice self-love for ourselves is so important on a daily basis. And I know you teach that to your clients too, where you tell them, I'm taking a self-care day today, I'm taking a Trudie day. And I
Oh,
love it
yeah,
when you do that.
yeah, definitely. And I always try and be as transparent as possible. Like I will say, I don't always have like my stuff together, not
Yeah,
all of the time, because I think that's another thing. If we assume that everybody always has their stuff together,
yeah.
we're creating this.
Like a magazine where you're looking at slim
Yeah,
people
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
scenario. And
yeah.
it's not true because nobody lives a perfect life.
No, no.
We all go through contrast. We're all spirits living in a human experience, and each and every one of us, no matter what we do, who we are, um, it doesn't make any difference. We still have to go through contrast. So it's
Yeah,
important, as you say, to let people know exactly that, you know, your life isn't this perfect straight path. We have our ups and our downs.
yeah. And what I've learned is that actually, like myself included, in the past, we're kind of fighting to not have any contrast. But you actually do yourself more harm than good by kind of fighting the contrast, because that's where you learn, that's where you grow. It's in the contrast, because without it, you wouldn't know what it is you need to know to grow, to learn. Because
Exactly.
that's another thing that actually Abraham says. It's, how would you know what it is you do want unless you know what it is you don't want?
Yep, exactly. And as you say, we need the contrast to grow, to expand, to learn. And that's partially why we came here, as well as to remember and to create for the joy of the journey.
Yeah, yeah,
Brilliant. Thank you for that. Yeah. I know that you've been inspired by Wayne Dyer, Louise Hay, of course, Abraham, who we've already talked about. Would you like to talk a little bit about how Wayne Dyer or Louise Hay have inspired you at all? Or maybe if you use any of their teachings in your work?
Louise Hay, I use her teachings in reference to like physical
Yeah.
illnesses, like a lot. So the thing, like, I love her Heal Your Life book.
Yeah.
And I do have a tendency to, like, whenever I feel like a physical illness,
To look at the back of the book where the index is.
definitely. And but for me, it doesn't kind of put me into that victim mindset, and it doesn't, for me, it helps me to take my power back. Okay, that's the emotional cause, right? I can get to work with
Yeah.
starting to work through my emotions to get back to that place of feeling in alignment, instead of jumping straight to, right, I need a pill, let's numb it, let's cover it up.
Yeah. And for the listeners who may not know what we're talking about, basically your emotions cause physical pain in your body if you've suppressed or repressed them. You know, for example, if you've got a problem with, you know, your left kind of upper left back or shoulder, it may be to do with the dominant female in your life causing problems. Or if it's on the right side, it could be to do with the dominant male in your life, different bits and pieces like that. Or, you know, if you've got problems with your lower back or perhaps your legs, you may have problems moving forward in life. If you've got, so that's really what we're talking about. And the reference that Louise Hay gives at the back of the book, well, I don't have it, I know enough about the book. The reference that she gives basically tells you the emotion, or something like that will be connected to the physical ailment that is going on in your body, so that you can kind of try to decipher what emotions led you to having that physical pain inside you.
Oh gosh, yeah. And it was a huge eye opener, because I firmly believe that you manifest everything, you create your reality. So when I looked up epilepsy for me,
Okay, what does it say about that?
It was violence against the self, running away from life. And I was like, yeah, that was
Okay.
me, without a doubt. Because I remember when I was a child as well, and seeing my mum, who would suffer from depression, migraines, things like that, in my child's head, thinking, oh, she's getting lots of attention from my dad whenever she's ill. That's whenever she's getting all this love, all this support, all that. So then I started to believe and think, to have love, to have support, I have to be ill.
Yeah.
I need some type of illness. Combine that with, I'm not good enough, I'm being bullied, I'm ugly, because I used to think I was an ugly child.
Well, you're not anymore by any way.
Oh, thank you. I did not want to be at school. I would do things to try and fit in, things like that. So running away from the self. I would basically do harmful things to myself even when I was very young. Like, one of my youngest memories, unfortunately, was trying to suffocate myself at the age of 7 with a pillow. All that accumulated to then my diagnosis of manifesting epilepsy at 15.
Yeah.
So I can very clearly see how I manifested it, very, very clearly.
Yeah. It's amazing when we can learn to accept the responsibility that we do manifest every single thing in our life, as I say, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
A lot of times people don't want to choose to accept that they have manifested illness, because I don't know why they don't, but they're willing to accept the good things.
Yeah, I think what it comes to, I mean, I will take responsibility for having manifested absolutely like everything, including like the things. So I was actually raped as well in my marriage,
Right.
and so I will include that as well. And I think what it comes down to is, we don't want to say that we manifested something so horrific, negative, and ugly, because it's like saying we were to blame, we were at fault.
Yeah.
And this is where people have to make the distinction. It's not to do with fault, and it's not to do with blame.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of times those things that we attract into our lives, such as rape or domestic abuse or whatever it might be, it's not that we've done it on purpose. It's not that we've done it consciously, because 95% of our life is actually run by our subconscious mind and our subconscious programming. And so it's not that, we or anyone else is saying that you did it on purpose. It's not that you did it on purpose, but it's through beliefs that you have, ingrained inside of you from, your peers, from movies, from programs, from parents, from whatever, and also, when you're inside the womb, I believe that you pick up the vibrations of your parents as well. And that you can be born with these. A lot of people, I don't think, really understand that. So that's another part as well. But it's not that we're saying that anyone has done anything on purpose. It's that they've done it subconsciously.
Yeah, it's exactly that. And I know for me, when I started to kind of go, okay, that was manifested, but I still wasn't to blame and I wasn't at fault. Okay, with that, this is how I can change it.
Right.
By learning to create what it is I do want to create now. Perfect. Not what I don't want to create. And that's the difference, because we spend the majority of our life just reacting to people, reacting to situations and experiences that we don't want.
Yeah.
And when we do that, we just hand our power over to anything and anybody which doesn't serve us.
Yeah, exactly. Because focusing upon anything, it expands. And so you're creating more of that problem. And instead, what you are now, in fact, doing, it sounds to me like, is that you are doing what we should all be doing all the time. Instead of focusing on the problem, looking for the solution.
Yeah. And even when I do end up coming across something that I don't like, I do acknowledge it first so that it doesn't fester, because I don't like that fester feeling. That's not a nice one.
Yeah.
I just go, okay, why is this here? What is this trying to teach me? So that I can just move it along even quicker and get to that place of alignment.
Brilliant. Love it. You have a spirit guide who you are really connected to, called Sunny.
Yeah, sorry, you've just said his name and he comes in kind of straight away, and he's just shaking his hips now. He's got a really weird sense of humor.
In his hips, is he?
Yeah.
Would you like to tell us a little bit about Sunny, how you first encountered him, and what your relationship is with him?
Yeah, so I first developed my connection to Sunny when I moved into my home 5 years ago. So when I first left my abusive relationship, shall we say. So yeah, Sunny means a lot to me, because he's like my connection to everything. And he's a native Indian American. And basically, when I'm doing readings or everything like that, he's the one that brings in the messages for other people. He's also my spirit guide. So if I've got anything going on, I call upon him for support and guidance. He does have a very sarcastic sense of humor. He's very blunt with it. Often spirit guides are there for you to teach you the things that you need to heal within. They bring you back home to yourself. Hence why he has a sarcastic sense of humor, because as a child I was told not to be funny.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I would try and be funny and be quirky and weird, and I was ridiculed for it. So my sense of humor was like pushed down all the time. So I truly believe he's very flamboyant in that way, to teach me to embrace who I naturally am, which is quirky and funny, and to heal other people with humor.
Yeah. Brilliant. So I didn't realize he was Native American. I was going to say, can he bang us out of tune there? But
on the flute, probably saying on the flute.
So I know we briefly talked about earlier on about whether or not you'd seen other beings and things like that, but have you encountered other angelic beings that you've seen or anything like that?
Angelic beings as in ascended masters, I have. So when I've done readings, I've seen Jesus.
Oh, wow.
I've also seen Kuan Yin.
Okay.
So the goddess of compassion. When I've seen Jesus, that's quite I normally get really, really emotional when I see Jesus. And I don't have a religious background either.
Right, yeah.
So that can be quite overwhelming. I also connect to the people, to their spirit guides. So I will see their spirit guides if the time is right for them.
Yeah.
That's not something that I will see automatically, because that's a personal relationship to them and them alone.
So if the person chooses, or if their spirit guide chooses for you to see them?
If the person chooses, and also the spirit guide chooses, it's kind of because the person has free will. but they have to genuinely be ready. The intuition, their inner being, will always be ready.
Yeah.
But if the mind is holding them back, then they won't.
I see. Wow. That's very interesting.
That everything has to kind of line up.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think that your children will have any of these characteristics that you have, or do you already know
Oh,
that?
they do.
They
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. Yeah, they do. My youngest two do a lot. And I think my youngest two do more so because I've, in the last 5 years, been very, very open about it. So they will just pick up my oracle cards, go through them, look at them. I also have a children's oracle deck
I've seen
as
it. It's
well.
lovely. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they like to. I know the cards are so small, and you just like hold them in the palm of your hand. It's so sweet.
So how old are all your children, first of all, again?
So I have a stepdaughter who's 10. My eldest is 11. I have to think now, my life. My son is 7, and my youngest is 5.
Okay.
It gets really, really busy in this house.
Yeah.
So my 7-year-old, we know that he calls him his friend.
All right.
So I know that he already sees and he feels. He has a friend called Johnny that he talks to every now and again. And we have to cleanse and bless his bedroom quite often. Because if we don't, he doesn't like sleeping in his bedroom because he sees and feels energy a lot.
Right.
And we know that before we came into this house, his bedroom, someone actually passed away in his bedroom. So
Oh,
we
right.
know
Okay.
that he connects to that energy quite often. My youngest, she's very, very empathic, very, very clairsentient, will pick up things from me even before I've said it, will finish off my sentences, mothers me. She will talk to herself, notice energy. Whenever I've taken pictures, videos of her, you will see like loads of orbs around her. Like
Amazing.
very,
Yeah.
very connected. My eldest actually did some meditations to specifically connect to her spirit guide.
Oh, lovely.
And what was amazing was on the first meditation, she actually managed to get a name and saw her.
Oh, wow.
But I think kind of social media and connecting to friends has kind of taken over now. So she hasn't done it since. She kind of prefers to be playing things like Fortnite or whatever it is now.
Yeah.
So they all have it in some way.
Brilliant. Brilliant. That's lovely. You say that you would like others to know the ability to overcome pain and to triumph through and from it is our greatest purpose for contrast, as you've already talked about. That without it, we would not have the capacity to feel so deeply, to connect with others, and to expand to the extent at which we do, and ultimately embrace love in the way we do. You also said that you used to think that life was happening to you as some sort of punishment until you decided it was your feeling and your reaction to those events, even though they were awful, that at the time hindered your progress. You said that sometimes the ability to reframe something allows us to return back to a state of love. And if we can only do that for a moment as many times as it is possible, then we live a life that feels purposeful. That's beautiful, Trudie.
Thank you.
Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I spent a long time blaming other people for the way that I was. And I know that came from conditioning, if you like, because of, and conditioning is basically the way that you are brought up and modeling and what you experience.
Sure.
I had parents that, although they did their best with what they knew at the time, basically told me what to do, kind of what to say, what to think, even like what career to have.
Mm.
Like when you're 16, oh, you'll be really, really good at this because you're really, really sympathetic and you're a good listener, so go into nursing. So I did that for 11 years and was really, really scared to leave, so didn't bother, even though
Yeah,
it made me depressed.
happens quite a lot.
Yeah. So by doing that, I didn't realize or know how to listen to my own voice and therefore act on it. And I think it only takes someone to say to you and to show you how to actually say, well, how do you feel? What does that feel like? What do you think? What do you want? What do you want to do?
Yeah.
Instead of do this, do that.
Yeah. 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 You know, it's funny, I hear exactly what you're saying. And as a mother myself, quite often, and I'm sure that, you know, you find yourself maybe doing it sometimes, but then sort of stopping yourself, uh, having known Abraham's teachings and what you've just talked about there, you know, that our children, for example, have their own inner being and their own inner guidance. And that really, you know, us forcing control over them, saying, do your homework now, eat this food now, it's not really the best thing for them after all.
Yeah. And I actually spoke about this in a live, like, was it
Oh, did
yesterday
you?
or the day before? All my days go into one at the moment. And I was like, it hit me the other day when I was like, I keep telling my children to finish their meal, and here I am teaching intuition. But like you said before, none of us are perfect. We're continuously growing.
Yeah.
And that teaches them actually to not tune into their own intuitive needs, their own like bodily functions, which is telling them, I'm full, I've had enough.
But I catch myself doing it. And I shouldn't be saying that. But then you kind of have this little fight with yourself as like, but they need to do that. It's not that you're trying to control them. I suppose it's a way that it's like that conditioning through society, isn't it? If you don't finish your homework or do your homework to the best of your ability or eat your vegetables that are on your plate, X, Y, and Z will happen. And it is that down to that conditioning. And so we as parents sometimes feel, well, they should be, in inverted commas, doing these specific things. Not so much even just to make us happy, but so that the whole world around sort of, we think that that's the way that it's meant to be, when in actual fact, it's not the best way to be, according to Abraham, at all. You know, let them follow their intuition, let them follow their guidance. We often give out about our children being on their phones and things like that, and social media and, you know, group texting and all of this kind of stuff. But in actual fact, Abraham has a really good clip about that, where they talk about, you know, these children knew what they were coming into. They knew that they were coming into the technological age. And they knew that a big part of their life was going to be through technology. And, you know, as we now know, a lot of the children are either indigo children or crystal children or children or whatever they want to be called. And I know that we definitely have one of those in these households, as I'm sure a few of yours are as well.
Yeah, indigos.
Yeah. So, you know, it's sometimes it's to try and pull yourself back from that conditioning, isn't it? Of going, okay, well, I am the parent and I am trying to do what's best for them, but, and then realizing, well, maybe it isn't the best thing. You know, maybe they should be going with their intuition. You know, my daughter quite often comes home and says, but I don't want to shower till nighttime. And I'm like going, but that kind of upsets the whole day. But that's what she wants to do. That's what her intuition guides her to do.
Yeah.
So it's little things that maybe don't seem to matter to other people, but they do to the person, I suppose. Not that we're trying to control, but, you know, as a parent, we're trying to parent.
Yeah. I think respecting the child's boundaries, because I think it's once the child knows that their boundaries are being respected and honored,
Yeah.
then they understand that, oh, actually, all is well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they feel as though they don't have to continue to kind of fight against other people themselves. And And then we see kind of less of that contrast, if you like, more of the flow and less of the ebb.
Yeah, exactly. And so things become much smoother in daily life. Yeah. So Trudie, would you like to tell everybody what services you provide and where people can contact you if they wish to avail of your services?
Yes, I provide one-to-one 8-week coaching, and that includes readings, and I teach you how to develop your own mediumship and psychic abilities, and also supporting you through, I call it from going from fear to free as well. And I also provide intuitive coaching readings as well. So that involves coaching as well as a reading all in one session.
Yes, and I can really recommend Trudie because, as I said, I had a reading with her on Monday. So,
Thank you.
So where's the best place for people to contact you?
And that would be, you can find me on Facebook in my group, which is called Angelic Soul Spiritual Coaching, or on my website, which is angelicreadingsandsoulcoaching.com.
Brilliant. I'll put those links on the YouTube channel, or rather I should say my lovely husband Paul will, so that the viewers can find it there. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Trudie, and sharing your story with the listeners and myself. I've really appreciated and loved spending time with you again this afternoon. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me, my love.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you. And until next time, listeners, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.